needing to watch more. Both the impulse to go there and switch it on the moment you arrive home, and you can observe the resistance to switching it off once it's on. You can observe the mind's desire for more expressing itself as when you say, okay, it's time to go to bed, and then you pick up the remote, and instead of pressing the off button, you say, okay, let's just try that channel. And then that draws you in for a few minutes. And then it goes to the off again. Okay, let's try just that one. And then another, and just flick through. The mind wants more stimulus. And you can observe that. You can observe when you go to a waiting room at the doctor or the dentist and you pick up a magazine, the hunger behind looking through the pages, and you can observe it in others more easily than in yourself when they flick the pages. They are consuming the magazine. The mind is consuming the magazine hungrily. They stay with each page for a few seconds. Occasionally there's a little thing that catches their attention for a minute. And it's very helpful if you can observe that in yourself. It's all to do with the mind's grasping for more. That this moment isn't full enough, I need to put some more into me. I saw a few newspapers around here. Maybe better to leave them alone. But observe the desire to go there and open it. Or if you're lucky, it's in Danish, and many of you don't know Danish, so that's okay. I observed a man, not here, he was picking up a newspaper, really with enormous interest, and beginning to read it. And suddenly, he threw it away in disgust. And I said, what's wrong? He said, it's yesterday's paper, I just saw the date on it. Completely worthless. So modern humans have become consumers of all kinds of things. They consume on every level. They consume the news, they consume entertainment. The big one, entertainment. A word that was even unknown not long ago, entertainment. A gigantic industry. Films. Occasionally you get the truth shining through. Some of it's rare, but it can happen. But a lot of the time, it's pain body entertainment. This is so bad, I love it, that's the pain body. This film will make you feel really bad, and then they all come to watch it. To feed their pain bodies through watching dreadful things. Films made by pain bodies for pain bodies. As we sit here, as you sit here, can you sense your own presence? It's not a very good way of putting it, because it's not your own. You don't even exist as a separate entity, as separate from the totality. Can you sense? But let's just for the moment put it like that. Can you sense your own presence throughout the body? Because presence is not a head phenomenon. Head is part of it, but so are the toes and the entire energy field. Presence is a whole body phenomenon, although it transcends the body and it's not part of the phenomenal world. But whatever words we use come from the phenomenal world, so it's okay. So there is something that one cannot grasp or say, here it is. Because if you say, here it is, you've made an object out of it. In consciousness. A concept, an idea. Here it is. And yet presence is consciousness itself. So you can never say, here it is. Who is saying here it is? All you can say is, here I am. As presence. There's also presence is not confined to the inner. Ultimately, this is just an artificial division between inner and outer. There's presence in the room, a field of presence. So it's within and without. So this is an entry point into presence, is the feeling of your inner energy field. Alive. Cells are alive. When you feel that, you can't think very much. The moment you start to think, you lose that, because consciousness moves up and you're up here. It's quite possible that body awareness was one of the original teachings of the Buddha. Some people claim that. Nobody ultimately knows. But there are some sutras that point to that. As is probably the awareness of breathing. And they are closely connected. Because if you follow your breath with your attention moves into the body. And you can then feel parts of the body as you follow your breath with your attention as you breathe in. It seems almost as if the breath were reaching even into your legs or feet, although science would probably tell you, well, you're not actually breathing into your legs. If the attention moves there. Whenever you are tortured by obsessive thoughts or any kind of thoughts, a never-ending stream of pointless thinking, which is most of the time, use the inner body as an entry point into presence. And you may notice the first thing, if the mind is very active, Or you're faced with a challenging situation and the mind wants to react out of its old conditioning. The mind will say, I can't be present in the body. Not now, I can't be present now, not now. Wait until I feel a little better, until things have changed. I haven't got the time now. Can't even think about it, can't be present now. And then you do it anyway. Feel your hands, arms, feet. Take a few deep breaths and follow the breath with your attention into the body. And quickly you feel an aliveness in the inner energy field. And there's your anchor for presence. And then presence becomes a globalized sense of aware aliveness. And there you are. And a few minutes ago the mind told you that you can't do it. If you believe that thought every time it comes, then you'll never go into the body because I'll do it some other time. I have too much on my mind now. And there you are. So this is to practice also when things are easy in your life, like now, relatively easy, except for one or two people who may have an ache or pain. And that's okay, somewhere in the body. There are other parts of the body that are fine. There's still the global feeling of aware presence. So there is sensing yourself as that presence here. Your awareness is then partly here, in here, so to speak, and partly on the outer world, which at this moment is not challenging, it's helpful. That's good. You can hear the words, you can perceive the room perfectly well, you can see the flowers, the lights, aware of everything, but aware also of the presence that you are, without which nobody would be aware of this room and this voice. It wouldn't even be there. There would just be atoms and molecules floating around with mostly empty space in between. So you create this world as the conscious presence every moment. But don't lose yourself in the creation. But since that has happened, that also had its place and its purpose. God as yourself, the one consciousness, the one life, must have wanted to lose itself in the creation and then wake up. And then know him, her, itself. It's a cosmic thing, not just little personal. It's huge. We are part of something huge. So as you sit here, some awareness is within the aliveness, the presence that you are, as the consciousness in which whatever you perceive appears. And that means you're deeply rooted in being. And the rest is existence. Being is that which is not manifested as a form, the underlying one life. Existence is that, the word already tells you that, it's that which stands out. Ex ist from Latin, stands out. Ex, out. So that which exists is a form that comes out of the unmanifested and manifests. As a thought, as a body, as a solar system, a galaxy, or blade of grass or micro. So existence is whatever you can perceive with the senses, and beyond there are other things that you cannot perceive, that's also existence. Spirit presences also exist. Devas, nature spirits, exist, although most humans can't sense these things, see them anymore. Gods probably exist. Gods, beings, angels, whatever you want to call them, all kinds of entities, and yet they exist. They may be deeply rooted in being. They may not be under the illusion that they are separate little entities, and yet they exist. They can be and exist at the same time. They can be rooted in this one source of all life and be out as an acting agent in the sense-perceived world. And we are learning that also. Nature also is rooted deeply in being, but at an earlier stage, natural connectedness with being without yet knowing it fully. So this is a very powerful way of connecting with being, connecting with your body. It's more than body. The invisible life that animates the body, the intelligence field. And then it's so much easier to go about this world without needing to label everything immediately. As soon as it enters your field of perception, some automatic thing comes into motion that comments on it, how absurd, and interprets it immediately to fit into what I need and what I want and what my story is and what my old likes and dislikes are, and immediately you have a running commentary on everything you see. It's a bit like almost like the robot from the future in some of these films by our friend Arnold. And so this robot from the future comes, and then sometimes the viewer of the film looks through his eyes, and whenever he sees a new situation, his field of vision is like a computer screen, and then the computer screen analyzes the situation. Male weighing such and such and height, approaching at such and such a speed, carrying a submachine gun, level of threat 9, and all kinds of quick analysis. Now, if anybody had to do that, they would be very slow. If you had to analyze analytically every situation, imagine driving a car like that. That's why even the most powerful computer in the world cannot yet drive a car from A to B in a small town. Just can't do it. And a human doesn't need to be particularly intelligent, it seems, to be able to do that. But this breaking it down into little bits of information is almost how the human mind, the conditioned mind, when you're lost in it, how it operates. You meet somebody and immediately you start formulating opinions and judgments and compare him or her with yourself and see where he or she fits in. Are you better, higher, more spiritual, more wealthy, better looking, stronger? Or you feel inadequate or feel better. Oh, there's this game, and perhaps I can add her to my sense of self. I can make her my wife and she'll look good next to me. It sounds absurd, but that's how the mind works. And of course you're not meeting anybody at all, you're meeting your own thoughts. Continuously you think you're interacting, you're having relationships with other human beings. You're only having a relationship with your mind. and then you marry her or him, and she has the same problem. A little later, they can't stand each other anymore. Two minds meeting. So that compulsion to go about the world and, according to your conditioning, immediately interpret everything and immediately have an opinion about it. I'm always perplexed when, after somebody asks me, what do you think of this person, such and such, that perhaps I have just met or whatever. Nothing. What is there to think? If you think about their conditioning, their whatever conditioned behavior they manifest, that's only a bundle of conditioning. There's nobody there. That's not who they are. So ultimately, whatever you can think about in the other person, that's not who they are. What you cannot think about in the other person, that's who they are and who you are. You conceptualize yourself as an entity that consists of mental positions and mental images and concepts. Me, story of me, and then you do it to others. So being here as an alive presence, the pull is greatly reduced, the pull to label everything immediately. When you sense, when you in the background, the presence that you are, entire being that you are, and you sense that as the presence, and then you perceive, then the need to label is hardly there. Still occasionally little thoughts may drift in and out, that's okay. But to a large extent you will be able to be there as a higher intelligence, because that's what it is, the unconditioned intelligence that is presence. And not be there as a little personalized entity that says me. No matter how intelligent, how developed my mind is, you're still a little egoic me, wanting something or fearing something. And so that is particularly when you meet human beings, because we've been talking about being present with nature, being present with a tree and a flower and look without needing to call it anything, unless you have to say something to someone. But in the act of perception, there's the background of aware stillness. And that's relatively easy. Nature is not actively thinking, it's not conducive to thought. It becomes more difficult when you meet humans, because most humans are noisy minds. That's who they think they are. They're walking around with noisy minds. And immediately it's very challenging to meet another human being, because you're meeting, in most cases, an egoic entity. They don't know who they are. They think they are their story. And they think they need this and that to fulfill themselves. And they fear all kinds of things. And they interpret you through the eyes of their conditioning. And so in the interaction with humans, it's essential to be there as presence and not as a labeling mind. And so if you can sense the inner body when you're facing another human being, somebody you've never met before, somebody you know already, doesn't matter. Somebody you're meeting very briefly, and there's a moment in which perhaps you ask, can you tell me where such and such a street is? You're stopping a stranger in the street. Can you tell me where such and such a street is? And he or she says, it's over there, they go that way. And there's a moment of perhaps 3 seconds in which you just look at him and you say thank you. In that looking, there was stillness. Just thank you. There was no judging. There was just a field of presence. That means you truly met another human being. You connected at a deeper level. And that is only possible when you are not lost or react to the world of form.